Women's football in recent seasons has come on leaps and bounds with more coverage of the women's game being broadcasted on Sky Sports and other major broadcasters in a push for equality between men and women in football. So in today's quite controversial video, I will be discussing the rise of women's football, and ultimately I will be giving my personal opinions after looking at many articles from different sources to come to a decision if women should or can be paid the same as the men. Hello and welcome back to the Blue Dragon YouTube channel, where we discuss different topics across the footballing world, focusing on the Premier League and Championship. Of course, please put your opinions in the comments down below and give this video a like if you do enjoy. Today I will be covering how women's football has increased massively in popularity, the reasons behind why women are not paid equally, and at the end of the video, for your retention, I will say what I think and conclude. Please note, I am not on either side of the argument for equal pay, and I am going to come into this from a mutual standpoint, and I am going to use a variety of various sources, so please don't be too harsh on me. Women's football's sudden popularity. Women's football in Britain first took off when the men were away fighting in World War I. In fact, during this time, women's football teams raised the equivalent of millions of pounds to help fund charitable causes and the war effort against Germany. Also, during the First World War, many women were advised to play football in their lunch breaks as a way of boosting productivity for the factories. It was apparent that women's football was growing rapidly in Great Britain, so much so that on Boxing Day 1920, a couple of years after the First World War I game, attracted 53,000 people at Goodison Park, with a reported 10 to 15,000 people turned away as the ground was packed. Unfortunately for women's football, this would mark the end of the success for women's football, as once the men returned to action, so did the demand for women's football disappear. As in 1921, the FA made the decision to ban women from playing on any association-affiliated grounds, which, apart from a few teams who found alternative pitches, the women's game in Britain had come to an end. In 1971, on UEFA's orders, women were allowed back onto official football pitches in the UK. And in 1993, women's football was back under the control of the FA, and since then the women's game has grown and grown. The growth of the women's game in the last 10 years has been massive. This is mainly down to the introduction of the WSL on Sky Sports, as well as the game being promoted to more and more young girls across the country. And in 2023, the England women's team were able to win the Euros by beating Germany at Wembley, which was massive for promoting the game in the UK. So all of this begs the question, which is, why do women's footballers make much less money than the men? Why are women not paid the same? After doing some research, I have produced the three main reasons women do get paid less. The first reason is that the men do get paid a massive amount of money, in fact so much money that being a footballer is one of the most, if not the most, high-paying jobs in the world, with some of the big earners taking home north of 6, sometimes 7 million a year, with the Premier League's top earner, Kevin De Bruyne, taking home around £20 million per year. Because of this, it makes it extraordinarily difficult for any other profession, such as women's football, to come close to these numbers. And you may be wondering, it's the same game, so why aren't they paid the same? And my answer to that would be, it's not the same, would be a male teacher and a female teacher. In fact, it's a totally different game in terms of strength and speed, so this means that we have to look at these two sports separate from one another and see the advantages and disadvantages in both sports. And my third reason behind the pay gap is because at the moment, the women's game is not as big as the men's game, simply because really the women's game has only been around in the United Kingdom for around 30 years, therefore crowds are lower and they aren't able to generate enough revenue to do things like paying their players the same as the men. But who knows, maybe if we see the same growth in the women's game, I am sure that many of these players will start to earn more money in the years to come. And this isn't to say that women's football is any worse or better than the men's game. I'm simply pointing out that the women's game hasn't had the same amount of time to develop like the men's game has for around 150 years, and that is the main reason the women do end up getting paid less. But all of this begs the question, should the FA commit to spending more of their budget on increasing player wages in the women's game? Should women footballers be paid more? Well, to answer this question, we must look at exactly how the women's game would get this type of money, as they are not bringing in enough money themselves to get on even terms with the men. So because of this, the money would have to be paid for by the FA. Unfortunately for women's football in Great Britain, though, I highly doubt that the FA has that kind of money to give directly to the players to cover for the clubs. In my personal opinion, the FA should not invest more money into the salary of current football players, but instead look at investing in grassroots women's football and getting more girls into the game. I know the FA have already been doing this, but it is vitally important for the men and women's games to be as accessible as possible, as football is known for being one of the most accessible sports in the world. And if the FA do this, then it will be a lot more beneficial in the long term for the women's game, as this will get more fans into stadiums, which means more revenue, which means the women will get paid a lot more money, and money the same as the men. So the key is with this topic is to invest in the future rather than the present, and that is how you will see vast changes in this area. So in short, more money needs to be spent at the bottom to be able to get to the top, and the same should go for any sport in the world. Right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, then please check out some more videos and share this one to someone who might be interested. If you did end up enjoying, then please leave a like, as it lets me know if you want more content like this, and consider subscribing, as it is completely free and it feeds me ego, and my ego is very hungry. I hope you will make up your own mind on this topic and put it in the comments section. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.